Hi guys, today we're going to be discussing Hess's law. So Hess's law is the overall states that the overall energy change that takes place is going to be the same. Whatever reaction that you have takes place in one step or in a series of steps. So whether you have 10 steps or you have one step, the overall reaction, the overall energy change that takes place in a particular reaction is going to stay the same. For example, if you have A going to B, this is one reaction, A to B. Now you can go directly from A to B, and the delta H for this is going to be delta H1, or you can go from A to C and from C to B. At the end of the day, you're going from A to B, right? Whether you go directly or you go indirectly. So because of that, the overall energy change is going to be the same. So I'm going to mark the roots over here. This is the first root, which is delta H1. And this is the second root, which is delta H2 plus delta H3. Now both of these are going to be equal, and the reason for that is that the overall energy change is going to be the same, because at the end of the day you're going from A to B, whether you go in two steps or whether you go from one step. The overall energy change is going to be the same. Now this is basically the basics of Hess's law. Now Hess's law is going to help us calculate an unknown delta H value for any particular reaction. Now this reaction might be theoretical or it might be very difficult to carry out in a laboratory. So because of that, you use Hess's law to figure out the energy changes, so you don't actually have to physically carry out the reaction. Now whatever energy change that takes place, it's going to be independent on the pathway as long as the reactants or the products stay the same. So if your reactants are the same and the products are the same, and if you're taking 1 steps or you're taking 10 steps, the overall energy change will not be affected. It's going to be independent and it will stay the same for both cases. Now we're going to be discussing different calculations that involve Hess's law. So we're going to be talking about two main cases, and the first one is delta H of combustion. As you might recall, we discussed this in detail in the previous video, so if you are confused about this, then you can go watch that one. So now combustion reactions are those reactions in which the substances on both the sides burn in oxygen to undergo complete combustion. Now they don't necessarily all have to form carbon dioxide and water. For example, if you burn hydrogen gas over here, you're only going to get water, you're not going to get carbon dioxide. But they just have to burn in oxygen. And normally, the type of compounds that undergo these reactions are going to be organic compounds. Like for example, this over here is an alkene, and this is an alkane. Now, all of these can burn in oxygen, right? So this can burn in oxygen because it's an alkene. Hydrocarbons burn in oxygen, and it's going to form carbon dioxide and water. Hydrogen can burn in oxygen to form water. And this is an alkane, propane. This can burn in oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. So as you can see, every single reactant and product and substance that's involved in this reaction can undergo some sort of combustion, right? Now this is the value of delta H of combustion. This is going to be given to you in your questions. And you have to use this to calculate the delta H of the reaction, the total enthalpy change that takes place. So this is your Hess cycle. This is the alternate route that you're going to take for you to be able to find delta H of reaction, right? So now the way you're going to do that is you're going to take reactants minus products. So over here, you're going to take the delta H of combustion for the reactants, and then you're going to subtract the delta H of combustion for the products. So the formula for this is going to be delta H of reaction, and this is going to be equal to delta H of combustion 1 plus delta H of combustion 2. This is going to go under the umbrella of your reactants because they're all on this side. And you're going to subtract the delta H of products from that. So in this case, you only have delta H of combustion 3, and you're going to subtract that. So the values were given to you, and you plug them in the equation, and you get the value for delta H of reaction. So in this case, you are using the delta H of combustion to calculate the delta H of reaction. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is our case 2, which involves delta H of formation. So this is the equation that we have over here. You have calcium fluoride reacting with sulfuric acid to form 2 moles of hydrogen fluoride and 1 mole of calcium sulfate. Now for this, we're not using delta H of combustion because most of these reactants and products, whatever substances you have over here, don't burn as easily in oxygen. And delta H of combustion is mainly used for reactions that involve organic reactants and organic products because those can easily burn in oxygen. For this, we're going to be making use of delta H of formation. Now to form calcium fluoride, you need calcium and fluorine. And the delta H of formation is going to be minus 1220. Again, all of these are going to be in kilojoules per mole. To form H2SO4, you need hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. Now, since there are 4 oxygens, you're going to be needing 2 moles of oxygen, but I've only written 1 because for the purpose of this, you don't really need to take into account the amount of moles that you need to form the substance. I'm just writing down the basic reactants that are going to be needed. And for this, the delta H of formation is minus 814 kilojoules per mole. Then you have hydrogen fluoride. So for this, you're going to be needing hydrogen and fluorine. Now, since it's 2 moles, you're going to be multiplying the energy by 2. Even for the previous one, if you had delta H of combustion, if the number of moles was written right next to whatever reactant and product you have, you are going to multiply the energy by that number of moles. So for example, if you had a 3 over here, you would multiply whatever energy you have by 3. So you're going to go according to that. So in this case, the delta H of formation for 1 mole of hydrogen fluoride is going to be minus 217. So for 2 moles, you're going to multiply it by 2. And the last one is calcium sulfate. So for that, you need calcium, sulfur, and oxygen. And the delta H of formation is going to be minus 1434 kilojoules per mole. Now you have 2 routes over here. You can either take this route, which is route A, to come to your products, or you can take this route, which is B, to come to your products. At the end of the day, your end product is going to be the same. You're coming from this arrow to these products, and over here also you're coming from this arrow to these products. So your starting point and your ending point are going to be the same. That means your energy change that takes place from route A and route B is going to be the same. This is your Hess cycle. So in this case, if you take a look at route A, you have this number over here. So you copy that down, and you have this number over here. And you also have delta H of R coming over here, which is what you need to find. You need to use delta H of formation. So what you're doing over here is you are using delta H of formation to find delta H of reaction. So this is what is unknown, and this is what you need to find. And you have that over here. And your route B is going to be this number plus whatever this number is. And you're going to use that to find out delta H of reaction, which in this case is going to be plus 58 kilojoules per mole. Now, you can use whatever I've done to derive a general equation for these type of problems. Then you have to use delta H of formation to find the delta H of reaction. So the formula for this is going to be delta H of reaction is equals to, let me just highlight this so it's easy for you to see it. So delta H of reaction is equal to the sum of delta H of formation for products minus the sum of delta H of formation for the reactants. Now in this case, we are going to do products minus reactants. Now keep in mind one very important thing to note over here is that you do products minus reactants only for delta H of formation when you have these type of problems. For everything else, it's always going to be reactants minus products. Now, this is a very common mistake is that people mix up these two. So you're going to be doing reactants minus products for anything that doesn't involve delta H of formation, and you're going to be using products minus reactants for delta H of formation. This is something that's very important to remember. What we're going to be talking about is calculating delta H from bond energy data. Now this data is either going to be given to you in the question or it's going to be given to you in the data booklet. So in this case, you need to calculate the delta H for the following reaction. So in this case, you have SiCl2 reacting with Cl2 to form SiCl4, and they have given you these bond energy values. So the bond energy value for SiCl is 359 kilojoules per mole. Again, all of these are in kilojoules per mole. And the Cl-Cl bond energy is 242 kilojoules per mole. Now, like I discussed in the previous slide, for anything besides formation, this is in formation, it's bond energy, you're going to do reactants minus products. So in this case, for SiCl, there are two SiCl bonds. So because of that, you are going to multiply 359 by 2. Now, the other reactant that you have over here is Cl2. So it's Cl, Cl. And the Cl-Cl bond energy you can see over here, which is 242. So you put that down here. And you subtract that from the products. So in this case, you have SiCl4. Now, since there are 4 SiCl bonds, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to multiply 359 by 4. And you do reactants minus products to get your final answer, which is minus 476 kilojoules per mole.